Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to our webinar today. My name is Lorna Rosenberg. I am the project lead for a project we have called Healthy Childcare Champions in Philadelphia. And I work with Randy Prasad, our program assistant. And we welcome you today to this webinar, along with our co-hosts and our hosts for the webinar that you're attending today, the platform, and that would be from the Public Health Management Corporation, and Jennifer is helping us with that. We thank you, Jennifer, for the GoToWebinar platform, and also with the Philadelphia Regional Center for Children's Environmental Health. So together, we have put together some tips and information that we know will help early learning centers and childcare this summer to keep children healthy. And that is what our focus is today. And we have 4 excellent speakers. And what we'll do, our format for today, is that the speakers will make their presentations one after another. And if you have questions, we encourage you to use your question box in on your screen to submit questions that you may have, and then we will respond to them at the end of the presentation. Our first speaker is, well, actually, I'm going to introduce all the speakers. So first, we're going to have Dr. Marilyn Howarth, and she is with the Pennsylvania Regional Center for Children's Environmental Health, and she will be speaking about how to keep kids healthy and what impact the summer heat and circumstances have for children's health. Our second speaker is Dion Lerman. He's with Pennsylvania State State University, and he's going to be focusing on managing ticks and mosquitoes, always an issue for the summer. And next we have Katie Sneeringer. She is with the Pennsylvania Department of Environmental Protection, and she's going to talk to us about the Air Quality Index and understanding outdoor air quality. And finally, we have Tanya Dingra, and she's with the Philadelphia Department of Health, and she'll be talking about the benefit of filtering indoor air. So we've got a great swath of information for you, and with that, I'm going to turn the first presentation over to Dr. Howarth.
Well, thanks so much, Lorna. Good afternoon. I don't see my slides yet. There they are. Okay, great. Next slide. There are a number of hazards that children experience in the summertime, and I'm just going to be talking about several of them today that I think are important to focus on in the childcare setting. Of course, there is the sun and the heat, and both of these can really be a lot for kids, in particular with small bodies and not really potentially used to drinking as much as they need to. And we'll talk more about that in a second. Another thing that is not always as obvious is that the summertime really can bring additional air pollution. We see high ozone levels in the summer when we have the combination of the sun and along with chemicals within the atmosphere that secondarily produce ozone. Ozone can be very impactful for children and their asthma, or actually irritate mucous membranes. And then, of course, we'll talk a little bit about ticks that you'll hear a lot more from Diane about, but ticks are really important to know about and manage in a very safe and quick manner. Next slide. Let's start with sun safety. The reason that it's important not to get a sunburn is not just because it hurts and it makes children and all of us really uncomfortable, but really the greater the number of sunburns that we received over the course of our lifetime, the higher our risk is for skin cancer. And so it is important to select a broad spectrum sunscreen that covers both ultraviolet A and ultraviolet B, and apply it several times a day. And in particular, if you're taking children, putting children in a pool, applying it after they come out of the pool, if in fact they're staying outside. One key ingredient to avoid is oxybenzone in sunscreens. It can cause allergy on the skin, and really it would be better to not have it included in the sunscreen. We like to keep babies younger than 6 months out of direct sunlight altogether. They really don't have the kind of resilience yet built into their skin to handle direct sunlight. Another consideration is when you take children outside. The UV rays are strongest between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. And so it's on those days that will be particularly sunny. It's always best to really play outside earliest in the day. This also will help you to avoid air pollution because, frankly, the ozone levels peak later in the day as well. So that late afternoon is really a particularly bad time to have children outside. We know that the sun exposure over a lifetime can cause skin cancer, but what many people don't recognize is it also can contribute to cataracts. So this is why sunglasses are so important. Sunglasses for all of us, really, to reduce the UV experience of the lenses in our eyes. So 99% UV protection is important for sunglasses. Next slide. And the heat itself that comes from the sun, that we have these very hot days, can really cause illness. And the way to prevent that is really encouraging water consumption. And the question always comes up, how much is the right amount of water? Well, for all of us, the answer is pretty easy. It's about how much we pee. If we're all urinating, then we're getting enough water. And also, as long as that urine is a light color rather than a dark color. Dark color urine in someone without other medical conditions, dark color urine in a healthy person, child or adult, is a sign of dehydration. And so we'd like to always keep our urine light. So if the children are asking to urinate regularly, that's a good sign that you're giving them enough water. Heat exhaustion itself can be seen when children have a lot of sweating, when they're very thirsty, they start to get a little dizzy, maybe nauseous and weak. That is these are some signs that really would suggest a need for more water. But when they actually get to the place where they're truly confused, staggering around, or passing out, that's a really much more serious condition, often a sign of heat stroke. And in that case, they really need to be cooled quickly. And in that case also, 911 should be called to have them seek medical attention. Next slide. Getting back to the air pollution issues that I mentioned earlier with ozone in particular, breathing problems can be worsened by this air pollution. Philadelphia in particular has 2 to 3 times as much childhood asthma as the rest of Pennsylvania, and asthma is the 3rd ranking cause of hospitalization among children. Next slide. Our respiratory tract, although this has a lot of, it looks a little busy, just focus on the fact that the nose and the mouth is where we take in the air. It goes down the trachea into the lungs, and into the lungs there are 2 tubes called the bronchus or the bronchi, and they then divide into many smaller bronchioles, the smaller tubes that carry air to the rest of the lungs. Next slide. In asthma, what happens to the bronchioles is they go from the one you see on the left, which is an open bronchiole, with freely passing air to the one on the right, where it is constricted in an asthma flare. Next slide. And those of you who may have experienced a family member or friend or a child with asthma know that it really can often be triggered by many things. Sometimes it's due to the kinds of pollution or triggers we have within the home that can come from pets or smoking or cockroach allergens or mold. But also they can be triggered by outdoor allergens such as pollen or air pollution. And what many children experience is some combination of all of these. And in children with asthma, it's the combination that often leads to the asthma flare. And children breathe faster, they play outside more, so may have greater exposure to outdoor air pollutants such as air pollution and pollen. And I want to point out that you'll hear a little bit more about the value of air purifiers. But if you have an air purifier inside a building, inside your childcare center, or inside a home, many of the particulates, smoking, pets, cockroach allergen, mold, or other particulates within that building can be filtered out of the air and reduce the likelihood of an asthma flare. And air purifiers have been proven to work. And what's more is they also work on some of the air pollutants that come in from outside, the ozone, the pollen, the other particulates that come in as part of air pollution. Next slide. And so sometimes we have air pollution that looks like this picture, a very smoggy look. That can lead to an air pollution flare, leading children to have missed time at school, missed time at their childcare, missed outdoor play, and really a lot of impact on their family dynamic, including missed work days for their parents. Next slide. But the air outside doesn't always look smoggy when we're having a poor air quality day. Air pollution can look just like this picture. It can be a perfectly beautiful looking day, but still invisible to the naked eye is the ozone and the fine particulate pollution that can cause asthma flares. Next slide. And so another talk you'll have will be about the air quality index. It is critically important for you to know the air quality index every single day. And I hope you all sign up for air quality alerts. You'll want to keep children inside on days that are orange or red. Orange being days that are unhealthy for sensitive groups like children or the elderly or others with pulmonary conditions. Yellow days that are considered moderate, you may want to choose to take children outside in the morning rather than the afternoon. And you want to relay this information to parents as well, so that they too know about the air quality index that day and can actually take action at home as well. Next slide. Just a word about tick-borne illness. You may have heard of Lyme disease, but there are a number of other conditions that can come and be transmitted by ticks, and they're listed here on this slide. And so just because your child may not get Lyme, they may get something else. In addition, when ticks are embedded in skin, they really should be removed promptly. The longer the tick stays embedded, the more likely they are to transmit one of these diseases. And the way to remove them is to grab that tick right at the skin with tweezers and pull upward with a steady pressure without any kind of a jerking motion, without twisting, and then wash the area with soap and water. Next slide. And with that, I'll stop and be happy to later, when we're taking questions, answer any questions. I'd like to recommend that or offer that you follow us on social media. And if we can help you in any way, please reach out. We are the Philadelphia Regional Center for Children's Environmental Health, and we can help on any topics, even those beyond what we talked about today. Thank you. Who's next?
Dion. Dion Lerman from Penn State's up next. There we go. All right. Welcome, friends. My name is Dion Lerman. I work for a Penn State program here in Philadelphia called the Pennsylvania Integrated Pest Management Program. I am a licensed pesticide applicator in the state, as well as an associate certified entomologist and a master of public health. Next slide, please. I'm got to cover a lot of territory, so I'm going to be talking really fast and going through a bunch of slides really quickly. And I encourage you to reach out to me for more information. We're going to talk today about ticks and mosquitoes in childcare settings, specifically what's the pest, what's the harm they cause, what is effective control, what's not so good, and a couple of things that don't work at all. Next, please. So ticks have a very complicated life cycle that I'm not going to go into today, but it does cover about 2 years, which is much longer than most insects. Ticks, of course, are not actually insects. They're more closely related to spiders. They're a kind of arachnid. There are over 25 different species of ticks in Pennsylvania, but 90% of our ticks that we see and identify are caused by 4 species. The American dog tick, which is not a hazard to us, but the black-legged tick, which is formerly known as the deer tick that causes Lyme disease, the Lone Star tick, and groundhog ticks, which again are not really a problem for us. The brown dog tick, which you'll see in a second, breeds in around homes, feeds on pets, and it can feed on people, but it is not a health hazard to humans. The black-legged tick at right transmits Lyme disease. It used to be called a deer tick, but people thought that if we avoided deer, we could avoid the ticks. And it turns out that the main exposure to Lyme disease is not from deer per se, but from mice in our environment. Next slide. So these are just some pictures. Here's the brown dog tick. These are disgusting, and you may find them on your dogs. These are soft ticks, and you can see about 6 millimeters, about a 1/4 inch long, fully engorged, whereas the adults are about the size of a sesame seed. Again, these are not a hazard to us, although you may want to talk to your vet if you find them. Next. The American dog tick is in fact a hazard to us and can carry some other diseases. And the others are all hard ticks, and they look very different. But again, they're very, very tiny. Next. This is the black-legged or deer tick, which is the source of Lyme disease. It is the only tick that carries Lyme disease. And this is very, very common in Philadelphia and throughout Pennsylvania. Next, please. And then there's the Lone Star tick, which is a fairly recent arrival in Pennsylvania, but it's spread very rapidly and is a serious cause of alarm. It can cause Rocky Mountain spotted fever, which is a terrible disease, especially in children. Next. It's important to point out that ticks don't actually have heads. What you think is a head, that thing sticking off, are just their mouth parts. And you can see on the left there what they look like normally, and then on the right you can see them unfolded so that they can grab on. And the piece in the center with those saw teeth is the bit that actually sticks in you and sucks your blood. Those saw teeth also make it very hard to withdraw. Next. So how do you get ticks? Well, by being outside. That's basically it. And the Philadelphia Department of Public Health has found ticks everywhere in the city of Philadelphia that they have looked. Parks, rec centers, playgrounds, you name it, they have found black-legged ticks there. And by the way, black-legged ticks do remain active throughout the winter, anytime it's sunny and the temperature is above 50 degrees. But basically, ticks climb up low brush to seek their hosts. And as you can see on the right, they just stand there and wait with their claws out for somebody to come along. You brush past, they grab on, you now have a tick. And so it's very, very important whenever you come inside to especially check children on all exposed skin around the ears and scalp, especially at the back of the hairline, and also dark, warm, moist areas, including armpits, inside of the knees and the waistline. And children should really be checked head to toe every single time they have been outside, even if it's only into the backyard of your own center. As I said, the health department has found ticks everywhere they look, and about 40% of those ticks are infected with Lyme disease. Next, please. Overall, in Pennsylvania, or nationwide, ticks are the #2 disease vector after mosquitoes. And in Pennsylvania, it is the #1 vector for diseases. And in fact, Pennsylvania is #1 for tick-borne diseases in the nation. Go Pennsylvania. So Lyme disease, as I said, is carried only by black-legged ticks, with about 40% of those ticks being infected. It does take 24 hours to be infected by the bite of the tick. It has to be feeding for that long. You may have heard about long-term Lyme. That is now called post-treatment Lyme disease syndrome. So you may hear people talk about that. Black-legged ticks can also carry, and American dog ticks can also carry, or not dog ticks, but American ticks, can carry babesiosis, about 5% infected with the disease, and Lone Star ticks, ehrlichiosis, with alpha-gal, which is a bad enough disease, but it can also cause what's called alpha-gal allergy. And this creates an allergy to red meat. And it becomes impossible for people to eat any kind of red meat. Rocky Mountain spotted fever is carried by dog ticks, and then several local ticks can carry Powassan virus, which used to be very rare, like 1 or 2 cases a year in the country. But in the last 10 years, incidence has climbed rapidly, and especially throughout the Northeast, and we have in fact had at least 1 death from Powassan virus in Pennsylvania. Both ticks and those diseases associated with ticks are expanding their range. So Rocky Mountain, or the Lone Star ticks used to be southern, and we're not in this area. They are now found in every county in Pennsylvania. Next, please. I will, and when I'm done talking, I will stick a couple of brochures in the chat for you that have more information about Lyme disease and ticks. The actual disease is caused by a bacteria that is spread by the ticks, especially by the nymphal stages. Lyme was first identified in this country in the 1970s, and the basic symptoms are a lot like arthritis, so it can be hard to diagnose. But if properly diagnosed, it can be treated very successfully with antibiotics. The primary sign of the bite can be a very specific bullseye. Next slide, please. But it doesn't necessarily occur in all people. But here you can see this sort of concentric circles. As I said, very much flu-like, including swollen lymph nodes. And any ticks that you collect can be sent for free testing in Pennsylvania. The information is available at www.ticklab.org, East Stroudsburg State University, and they will get you information about any potential infection within 48 or 72 hours. It is free. Next, please. Avoid ticks. Wear light-colored clothing so it's easy to see them. Wear long pants and long sleeves, including in summer. I know, it's obnoxious. And see in the Gucci picture on the side, you want to keep pants tucked into socks, wear a hat, and wear insect repellents. I have another slide in a second that'll list all of the approved repellents. DEET is the most common. Oil of lemon eucalyptus is the only so-called natural substance that is approved. by the Centers for Disease Control, and it is not suitable for children under the age of 3, which is something to keep in mind, whereas the others are. Another product that's available are permethrin-treated clothing. This is insecticide-treated clothing. We do not recommend this, especially for children, especially in urban environments. It's unnecessary. Next, please. Same illustration that Marcia had here from the CDC. Pull ticks straight out. There are tools such as the one on the lower left you see there that you can use, but you don't want to twist the tick. You don't want to crush the body. You don't want to burn it with matches or paint it with nail polish or anything like that. If you leave the mouth parts behind, don't worry about it. The body will push them out in 24 or so hours. Again, you can send ticks to ticklab.org for testing, which we highly encourage. Next. There are also a bunch of controls that can happen. These days, you may be seeing advertising for spraying for ticks. This is largely ineffective in most cases and probably in most childcare settings and would not be recommended. The best thing you can do is reduce vegetation near areas where people are. Cut back high brush and create a sort of rough buffer zone that people are likely to stay away from. You can also reduce mouse population, including trapping mice. But here you see two products, tick boxes on the bottom that are highly effective. And they attract the mice, which then they get treated with an acaricide that kills ticks. It doesn't affect the mice, but it does kill the ticks on the mice and in their burrows. And tick tubes above are a similar product, not quite as effective, but considerably cheaper. We also are looking to increase predators of mice, such as foxes. And if you have a lot of money, you can reduce deer access by putting up 8-foot-high fences. But that may not be practical for most of us. Again, I've been through this very quickly. Please contact me for more information. My contact information is on my last slide. Next, please. Moving on to mosquitoes. This is a mosquito that I'm sure you're familiar with. It's a big mosquito, at least 1/4 inch long. It's black and white stripy thing. It flies during the day. It bites you in the day, often down low on your ankles. It will also get indoors and bite. This is the Asian tiger mosquito. Next slide, please, which is, next slide. An invasive that showed up here in Philadelphia about 25 years ago and has become very widely spread. It is competent to spread a number of dread diseases, including Zika, which you may have heard of, chikungunya and dengue, which you may not have, but it is not doing so in this region at this time. It is also capable of carrying yellow fever, or it's a close cousin, I'm sorry, the Aedes aegypti, which used to be a local problem. In 1793, it killed about 1/10 to 1/4 of Philadelphians. Yellow fever was wiped out in the 1800s, and we don't have cases of that anymore around here. However, the other big mosquito around here is the northern house mosquito, that little dark gray, blackish guy who you see flying at night. And this is the primary vector for West Nile, which it acquires from birth. This is a very serious problem. The third mosquito that is a serious health risk are Anopheles mosquitoes. These are the ones that cause malaria. We don't have these around here at this time, but again, as climates get warmer and wetter in this region, they may migrate up here. They're very easy to identify because they, quote, stand on their heads. And in the diagram to the right, the lower bottom left cell, you can see. If you see a mosquito standing like that, kill it, call your health department and let them know. One thing about mosquitoes you may not know is that only the females bite, and only when they're going to lay eggs. Males feed strictly on pollen. Next, please. And so mosquitoes are in fact pollinators. I talk about the range of mosquitoes growing. Here's an example very quickly. The red area at the bottom is where we currently have these Asian tiger mosquitoes, and the different colors show the projected spread until by the next century there will be as far north as Canada. Next, please. And you may know that mosquitoes spend about 3/4 of their life cycle in water. Only adults fly around in the air, and they lay their eggs in the water, and they go through 4 stages in the water before they pupate, and then also in the water. And it's really much easier to kill mosquitoes when they're in the water than when they are flying around in the air. So we recommend focusing efforts on killing mosquitoes when they're larvae and pupae in standing water. Next, please. Again, these carry West Nile, which is a very complicated disease. I'll try to stick that brochure in their chat as well. Next slide, please. And to control them, the most important thing is to eliminate standing water. And here you see various causes, including kiddie pools that aren't drained or properly, swimming pool covers, gutters, drips from air conditioning or hose bibs, cups, bottle caps, etc., left outdoors, ponds or bird feeders. And in water that you can't eliminate, you can use larvicides, things that kill mosquito larvae. 2 popular items are things called BTI or mosquito dunks. There are also torpedoes, which I will show you in a slide in a minute. You also want to make sure that screen doors, window screens, etc., are repaired and the doors and windows sealed tightly. Again, we recommend using indoor insect repellent. And because mosquitoes are not strong flyers, you can actually set up box fans or oscillating fans outdoors and simply blow mosquitoes away from the area that you are using. We do not recommend the use of mosquito magnets, traps that emit carbon dioxide to lure mosquitoes in, because they will lure every mosquito from around the neighborhood to your property. And again, we do not recommend the use of sprays to try to kill adults. It's very difficult to kill an adult mosquito flying around, in spite of what all these new companies want to convince you of and convince you to buy very expensive regular service. All that's mostly doing is exposing you and the children to pesticides. Next slide, please. Again, here are pictures in this jar on the left. You can see those sort of dark things up on the surface. Those are mosquito larvae and pupae. And I was talking about how gutters can retain water and breed mosquitoes. Here you can see a good example. And if you have no standing water on your property and you have mosquitoes, check your gutters. Used tires are another huge area for mosquito population growth. And this can be a problem in many areas in Philadelphia where used tires build up or are dumped. Next, please. They should be removed. I mentioned insect repellents. This is the CDC's list, and you can just Google CDC insect repellents, and this page will come up. There are 6 approved insect repellents, and these are safe for adults and children. Although, as I said, we do not recommend the oil of eucalyptus, lemon eucalyptus, for children under the age of 3. Next, please. Here are the 2 most common consumer products that you can put in standing water. Mosquito dunks use a dried bacteria that reconstitutes in the water. It secretes a toxin that kills the mosquito larvae. Insect growth regulators prevent the larvae from being able to develop into adults. And these both are extremely effective. They're available in any hardware store or home store. Next, please. Any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll get to them in a minute. And finally, next, please. Here's my contact information. And if the slide goes past too quick, feel free to contact Lorna and she will give you my contact information. The best way to get hold of me is email, but you can also try to get me on the phone. Thank you for your time and attention, and I look forward to talking to you all sometime soon. Thank you.
Okay, I guess that makes me next. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Katie Sneeringer. I am an epidemiologist supervisor in the Division of Environmental Health Epidemiology at the Department of Health. So today I'm going to talk to you about an air quality index training that we've created. We created this training with funding from the Environmental Health Capacity Grant, which is a CDC funded grant. We're calling it a nano training. Excuse me. We wanted to keep it short to be mindful of folks' time and busy schedules. So this training is designed for childcare providers, teachers, and other school staff. The goal is to educate and inform you all on the air quality index, explain how to tailor activities based on the daily air quality index, and demonstrate some ideas for how to incorporate the air quality index into daily classroom activities. So on the screen right now, you'll see 3 QR codes. The QR code furthest to your left will take you to the training video itself that is available both on our divisional website and also on YouTube. The middle QR code, which I'll talk about in a moment, will take you to airnow.gov, which has a variety of other resources. And the QR code furthest to your right, we ask that if you do take the air quality index training, which we're going to watch here in a moment, if you have a few moments to answer a few questions when you're done, to give us some feedback on the air quality index training. So now, Jennifer, if we could switch over to the YouTube video, we're going to take a moment to play this training for you all this afternoon. It's very short. It's just a few-minute video. If you could make sure that your volume is turned up, and we also will have the captions turned on to make sure that everyone will be able to hear it. Jennifer, I'm not hearing the sound.
Give me 1 second.
Sure, thank you.
Welcome to the nano training of the Air Quality Index, AQI, designed specifically for childcare providers and teachers. This training was developed by the Division of Environmental Health Epidemiology, Pennsylvania Department of Health, with resources from AirNow, a partner of the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency, EPA. Children's environments, such as where they live, learn, and play, may impact their health. Exposure to environmental hazards like mold, poor air quality, or contaminated drinking water can lead to negative health outcomes. Importantly, air quality may impact children's health because their lungs are still developing, posing a higher risk of developing respiratory illness like asthma. The objective of this training is to help you understand EPA's Air Quality Index, or AQI. Explain the AQI values and colors linked to air pollution levels, and demonstrate how these values may correspond to children's level of outdoor activities, as well as ways to include the AQI in classroom activities. So what is the Air Quality Index? The AQI is EPA's tool for communicating daily local air quality and is used as the basis for making air quality forecasts. Color-coded categories provide information about air quality in an area, which groups of people may be affected by poor air quality, and steps people can take to reduce exposure to air pollution. The AQI is a scale that goes from 0 to 500. The higher the AQI value, the greater the level of air pollution and the greater the health risk. EPA establishes an AQI for 5 major air pollutants, including ground level particle pollution, also known as particulate matter, PM 2.5 and PM 10, carbon monoxide, sulfur dioxide, and nitrogen dioxide, each of which is regulated by the Clean Air Act and has a national air quality standard set by EPA to protect public health. Notably, AirNow's AQI tool only provides readings for ozone and particulate matter. The AQI is divided into 6 categories. Each category has a specific color corresponding to an increasing level of health concern. The colors make it easy for people to quickly recognize when air quality is reaching unhealthy levels in their communities. The first level is green. Here, the AQI value ranges from 0 to 50, and air quality is good or satisfactory with little or no health risk from air pollution. Next is yellow, with AQI values ranging from 51 to 100. Air quality in the yellow level is acceptable with moderate health concern. However, there may be a health risk for some people, particularly those who are sensitive to air pollution, including children, older adults, people with lung disease or asthma, and those who are always active outdoors. Then orange. At this level, the AQI value ranges from 101 to 150, and there is moderately high concern that members of sensitive groups may experience health effects. Next, red. Here, the AQI value ranges from 151 to 200. So air quality is considered unhealthy. At this level, some members of the public may experience health effects. Members of sensitive groups, including children and those with asthma, may experience more serious health effects. For purple, the level of health risk is very high, and the air quality is considered very unhealthy. The AQI value ranges from 201 to 300, indicating that there is an increased risk of adverse health effects from air pollution for everyone. This would include all staff and children at your facility. Finally, we have maroon. Here, the air quality is hazardous, with an AQI value of 301 and higher. This level indicates an emergency health situation where everyone is more likely to experience negative health effects because of higher levels of air pollution. You can monitor the AQI for daily air quality at airnow.gov. AirNow is a partnership between EPA, the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, the National Park Service, NASA, Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, and tribal, state, and local air quality agencies. Additionally, EPA's AirNow mobile app provides a simple way to quickly check current and forecast air quality information. This information is useful for planning daily activities and protecting the health of your staff and the children in your care. The app automatically displays the current AQI for your local area or any area you wish to check, and allows you to store multiple areas for quick reference. The AQI can be used by schools and childcare facilities to modify outdoor physical activities. For instance, when the AQI is green, children can play outside without limitation, but when it is red or higher, outdoor activities should be limited. AirNow has a simple air quality and outdoor activity guidance for schools that can help you plan outdoor activities to protect the health of all the children you care for. Here, we provide some simple ways to include the AQI in your lesson plans and class activities. The AQI is simple enough for all children to understand. You can share the AQI with children during group times and let them make AQI color flags for display in the classroom. The different flag colors displayed daily would let everyone know how clean the outdoor air is. You can also read books about nature and climate. To help teach about air quality, specifically the AQI, EPA developed a children's book called Why is Cocoa Orange? The book is available free of charge, both in English and Spanish, at airnow.gov. There's also a narrated YouTube video of the book that students can listen to and follow along independently on a tablet or device if available. Importantly, airnow.gov provides resources specifically for teachers as well as resources for participating in the Air Quality Flag program. Thank you for listening to this short training. Please do not hesitate to contact us at dehe@pa.gov or 717-787-3350 with any questions or ideas for learning more about air quality and the AQI. We acknowledge the U.S. EPA and Air Now for their contributions to the content of this training.
Great, thank you so much for showing that. As was mentioned in the video, there are additional resources on airnow.gov, and that includes a variety of resources, including age-appropriate classroom curriculum. There's activity sheets, lessons plans, game ideas, coloring sheets, all sorts of very helpful things. So we thought this information was particularly relevant and useful right now. May is actually National Allergy and Asthma Awareness Month. And as we move into the warmer summer months, the air quality tends to be worse as the weather gets warmer. So we are very grateful to have had the opportunity to share our nano training with you all today. We are absolutely happy to answer any questions. We are welcome to feedback with the survey or via email at dehe@pa.gov. So thank you all so much.
Okay, hello, good afternoon. I think it's me next.
Yes.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Tanya Dingler, and I am the Pediatric Partnerships Program Manager within the COVID Containment Unit and the Division of Disease Control for Philadelphia Department of Public Health. That was a mouthful, but I hope that some of the information that I can share with you is helpful and relevant. And I particularly today want to share information about our Medify air purifier and HEPA air filter program, but also specifically on indoor air quality. Next slide, please. Thank you. So why is indoor air quality important? In urban settings, especially such as Philadelphia, where you see a high prevalence of asthma in young children, there are 50% of schools who report poor indoor air quality. 15% higher test scores by students with good ventilation, and then there is 10,000 school days missed each year due to asthma and other respiratory related illness. Indoor air quality is very, very important and now is a long-term commitment. As we have been through now about 3 years of the global pandemic due to COVID-19, we realized that investing in great indoor air quality is very, very important for our children. It helps with concentration. It also helps them feeling focused, and also most importantly, it's important when there are specific subgroups of these students who may be more susceptible to severe asthma and chronic asthma. Next slide, please. I want to share a little bit more about how an indoor portable air purifier helps. We get a lot of questions from some providers in Philadelphia as we have started this initiative of what does that truly look like, and I really enjoyed this depiction where you can see smoke, pollen, dust, dander, etc. You can see them in their molecular form of what these look like. Specifically, these air purifiers, which are and specifically also HVAC systems that have MERV 13, or also just HEPA air purifiers, have a great ability to filter some of these particular matter, and specifically they can also filter heavier molecules. And so it is important that these air purifiers are running for a specific amount of time, they're running on the adjusted settings, and that they are continuously refining the air in the room. I know that right now we are in allergy season full swing. They also help with pollen and allergy relief. I know that there are a lot of questions that we receive from some schools and specifically nurses, etc., where when you have a lot of indoor air and where you may not have the ability to open up windows, etc., that these are very helpful to filter the air. Next slide, please. What is an air purifier? I did want to also mention that I've been using the term HEPA, and it means that it is a high efficiency particulate matter filter, air filter. An air purifier is also a device that removes these airborne contaminants that I was just showing you in this slide earlier. They can remove at least 99.97% of dust, pollen, mold, bacteria, and other particulates with the size of 0.3 microns. I think these air filters have also been great, and some really kind of great feedback we received from the providers is that they also keep the room smelling fresh. So not a lot of unwanted bad smells this summer, right? You will have a cleaner, better smelling room because they also help with reducing any odors in the room as well. They do have a 3-layer system that catches and removes these allergens and pet dander as well. And so specifically during respiratory virus season that kind of occurs in the winter months, that these are very, very helpful in conditioning the air and making it cleaner for children to have a better focus. And also another small piece of feedback that I have received through this initiative is that they have a humming sound, kind of a white noise sound. So for those of you who kind of understand that and use, let's say, white noise or other type of machines or noise to have more sound sleep, that they help with focus. They also help with that sound that helps children have a better, deeper nap during nap time, and they're just generally a little bit better at maintaining white noise, and they're not other types of noise, right, that is distracting to the child. Next slide, please. These HEPA air purifiers specifically will reduce the spread of infectious diseases such as COVID-19, RSV, and flu. These have been, these have been very, very prevalent during the past few years since we've moved through various different waves of COVID-19. There are other benefits as well, and I mentioned these in some of the slides about increased test scores, improvement in student behavior, and reducing absenteeism due to due to infectious disease-related illnesses. Particularly, I think I want to note that there are, in specifically urban settings, that we have denser air, and that to have such a great quality air purifier, it helps maintain the indoor air quality in these sites. And providers have really given us great feedback in the city of Philadelphia of using these filters and using them to the best ability. Next slide, please. Just a little bit of background on this initiative as well. The program started on January 5. We have had since the beginning a great prioritization for early childhood education centers, and slowly we have now included K-12 schools. So far, we have had, we've provided each air purifier with a multi-year supply of replacement HEPA filters. So you tend to replace these air purifiers with filters about every year or 6 months or so. And we have over the course of the last 4 months distributed about 1,500 air purifiers to over 350 early education sites. There are a lot of sites who have completed our interest survey as well. I will put the interest survey in the chat for everybody to look over. It has some more information. Typically, we're able to deliver these machines to you, and they have been a really great resource. And we are urging the providers to be using these HEPA air purifiers for the entirety of the day, right? So you are at least hoping to run this for about 40 hours a week for the children to reap great benefits from these air purifiers. I also did want to share, I think this has been pretty helpful for providers to see what these machines look like. We have two sizes. One is an MA50 and then the other is an MA112. The only thing that you need to know is that one is a tabletop size and then the other is, a little bit bigger. It's about 3 feet. So the tabletop size is great. It's useful for up to 22,000 square feet. And then the bigger one that is will be set on the floor, about 5,000 square feet is what we are using it for. Some schools and early childhood education centers have received both of these depending on what their physical layout looks like. So we're able to allocate either of these machines. Just to note that, the bigger machine will have a couple of higher settings. They use 2 filters, and then the smaller does use just 1 filter, but has great benefits as well. The smaller machine shown here has been the most popular amongst providers due to its size and shape, and also that is easier to have in a smaller classroom. We do have a blog post, which I also will be entering the link for. I did want to share that this blog post came out a little bit earlier in March, and we've been able to, since then, really increase our reach and our outreach to various different providers and provide many more air purifiers. This has been a really great resource. The survey that I was just talking about, I know that the slides will go out to you through Lorna, but I will enter the link via the chat as well. But I did want to mention that this is the first page of our interest survey. It does provide you with some of the basic information and gives you some of the next steps. So this has been exciting to know that if there are providers who are yet to receive in Philadelphia, who are yet to receive their air purifiers, that you're able to still do that. These are Medify air purifiers, and they have been very, very effective within schools, and we're getting great feedback so far. Thank you. I know that we will be taking some questions, but if you do have any specific questions for me regarding this initiative, please also feel free to use the chat.
Thank you, Tanya, and thank you to all our speakers, to Marilyn Howarth, to Diane Lerman, Katie Sneeringer, and to Tanya Dingra on the incredible amount of useful information that they provided for all of you on the call. So again, many, many thanks to them, and to Jennifer for being such an excellent host. Now, we were really at the end of our time because you got so much information. But Jennifer, if there are any questions that are coming in, please share them with us, and our speakers will respond.
Thank you very much. Thank you to everyone that presented as well too. Just a reminder, you can use the question box in your dashboard that you should have on your screen. You can type it in. The question will come straight to us, the panelists, and we are happy to share those questions with you.
This is Dion. I just wanted to say that I was unable to upload into the chat. My machine is having some troubles today. I'm sorry, but I will send those brochures to Lorna, and she will send them out to the attendee list.
Yes, just so that you know, this program has been recorded. We will send you resources and information and follow up, as well as a copy of the recorded program so that you can share it with others that you come in touch with and know that will be useful for them as they as your centers approach the summer season. Anything coming through? Anyone want to unmute and ask a question? More than welcome.
No questions have come through yet, but Lorna, thank you for that reminder. If you'd like to ask your question, if you'd like the floor, you can hit the raise hand button, which is the little green hand with the arrow on it, and I will unmute you. And I see a hand up. Let me see who that is. Oh, and it just went down. If you accidentally raised your hand and realized you shouldn't have, that's fine. But if you accidentally lowered your hand, you can re-raise it, and I will unmute you.
Okay, Jennifer, if we're not getting any questions coming in, then I think we should wrap up and give folks their time back so that they can go about the rest of their day. We will send you follow-up emails with this information so that you can refer back to it. and keep your students and the kids in your care and your staff safe and healthy throughout the summer season. And with that, everyone have a great afternoon and a wonderful holiday weekend coming up. Thank you, Jennifer.
Thank you.